Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Empire Builders MasterCast. Honore, how are you?
I'm pretty great, Lucas.
Yes.
I'm pretty great.
Should we ask Byron how he's doing?
I think he's on a call right now. So, no, we shouldn't disturb him right now. That's who we're concerned about right now.
Right now.
Right now. Yeah. So, who are you again?
I'm a guy named Lucas, and I help nonfiction authors create courses from their books. How about you, Honore?
I'm Honore Quarter, and I help professionals to write, publish, and monetize their books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking about one of those professionals a few minutes ago.
We were. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There is a book that is imminent.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm
Dark
really excited
cover.
about it. Yeah.
I like it. Some contrast.
Yeah. Where is it? What did I do with it? Where'd it go?
I don't have it.
Yeah. I don't know. Wait, I hid it from myself. I'm going to just do a flyby. Ready?
Yes.
That's all I can show today, everyone. You'll have to come back in a few weeks to see it.
We need one of those partial cover reveal graphics where it's like, looks like a package has been torn open. Those always frustrate me.
They do? So like something like this?
Yeah. Because I'm like, I just want
to. Like, wait, hold on. Can I go like?
Yep.
Okay. So now we have no idea what's happening, but there it is.
There it is.
There it is. What are you reading?
I am reading a beautifully written story called The Redemption of Morgan Bright, written by Chris Panettiere. And it's a very interesting POV because, and this is fiction. It's about a lady who checks herself into this mental institution.
All right.
And it's written through her perspective. So it's really entertaining to read someone writing through this very interesting character POV.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Chris is just a brilliant writer. Beautiful, beautiful prose. And I just finished The House at the End of Lacellian Street by Catherine McCarthy, which is
who street?
Lacellian Street.
Yeah, no, that's not a word.
Well, it's funny because I had an advanced reader copy, and Catherine is in Wales, so she's a Welsh author. She's
what's her last name?
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. In fact, I just interviewed her.
I know how to spell McCarthy. I did a book with Mike and Lindsay McCarthy called The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families twice, because we did the first edition and the second edition after the 5th year. So shout out to the McCarthys.
Yeah.
And their distant Welsh cousin apparently, Catherine.
With a C.
With the C.
With a C.
That's how I called it.
Beautiful story. That one's interesting because it's sort of cosmic, sort of great. Like, it's just a very deep, full story, but it's short. It's a novella. So it's really fun to kind of climb through 2 or 3 hours of that story and come out the other side going, wow. The concept, which I will share. Hey, Jen, I'll share briefly, is that these 3 people get on this bus in this ice storm. They don't know why they're there. They don't know where they're going, but the bus driver just keeps saying Lacellian Street. And they're like, yes. And they don't even know why they're there. And then when the bus stops, the 3 people get off. There's this big, beautiful brick Victorian style house. And each of them goes in. They're given a key to a room. It's almost like there's a whole staff working there, but you never see anyone. And it's like this.
Just like my house, except I'm the staff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then I don't want to spoil it, but the rest of the story has to do with these people kind of reconciling their own lives in this experience in this house. And they become very interdependent on each other, but they're very juxtaposed because they're very different characters. So anyways, great.
I'm sure Amazon will recommend it to me any minute now that my recommendations have changed on my Kindle. Amazon's like, "I think you wanna read this horror book, Honore." And I'm like, "No, Amazon, no, I don't. No, unless it has Elsie Marino on the cover, I don't. Nope, nope. Negative. That's a no. That's
Yeah,
a niner. It's
it's
a
an eater.
niner."
How about you? What are you reading?
I'm reading the book I'm not showing you a
There's
lot,
one.
a lot, a lot. I make a list on a sticky of all the times I have to read it, and then I check it off, like, as I go through it. So I'm just reading it over and over and over. It's really great. I'm also reading sort of Deep Work by Cal Newport,
Ah, I have that.
and then The Usual Suspects. Have you read it?
I have Deep Work, and I read part of it a couple of years back when it first came out and never
All right,
finished it.
all right. Well, um, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
What are your thoughts on it so far?
I'm in total agreement. It's actually I'm still in the very early there goes that chipmunk again. Zoop. He's having a good time out there. I, am actually making some adjustments, to my schedule and just saying no to things. As a matter of fact, I have for the past several years set a Goodreads reading goal, and then I go in every morning or evening or sometime at least 5 times a week, I'll update what pages I'm on in various books, and today I just said, "No, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm done."
Distraction,
Yeah, yeah. I've stopped doing a bunch of things. We'll talk about it later. We'll
right?
talk about it later. Um, but I also am getting ready to publish my next book. So,
Are we going to talk about? We're going to have a whole episode on that next week,
I think
right?
we're gonna talk about it next week for sure, but it's
Right.
a whole new product that I have,
Are we allowed to talk
and,
about the title?
sure. We can talk about it or you can talk about it.
Well, do you have a copy of it? Are we allowed to show
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
For sure,
You
for
gotta
sure,
you
and
gotta hold it.
it might even be live, in the paperback version.
Oh,
So this isn't the what's happening?
that's good.
Justin made me turn my camera around, so now
It looks great from here. Yeah.
yeah, so it's a little different, the final version is a little different, so I
Mhm.
did a little changing of that.
Gotcha.
So it's just we'll talk about it next week, but it
Looks
might be on
great.
Amazon. Might be on Amazon here pretty soon,
The
any
mini
minute.
book of goal achievement, right?
Yep, Honore Quarter's mini ebook of goal achievement. Yeah. I added my name to it because it's, you know, I wanted everyone to be really sure they knew who wrote it. I don't know. I'm being funny.
You got to put it on the front, anyways, right? Might as well put it in the
Yes.
title.
Yes. Oh, Amazon says it's in review. It's in review.
Hopefully, not in perpetuity.
You know what? What's so interesting is, thank you, Justin. What's so interesting is that for some reason, and I have my theories, publishing a book takes longer now. I used to approve the files, and within a few hours, the ebook would go live, and within a couple of days, 48 hours at the absolute most. And that's if I had some bad karma I had to atone for. Like, it would take 48 hours for the paperback to pop up. Now it's taking days and days and days. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I actually don't even have the EPUB file yet. So I'm waiting for that from Dino. But this is just a little different. And we're going to talk about it next week.
Yeah.
What are we talking about this week?
We are talking about estimating future book income. And
Are we
who
talking
better?
about fiction or nonfiction?
I think we start with nonfiction
We start with
because I think, I think we start with nonfiction because it's easier to. I think sometimes nonfiction authors are primed to expect a certain level of income from their books, and they're normally tying. Well, I'm saying this is generally tying their book to whatever expertise they have that they're marketing elsewhere in coaching or consulting or whatever.
right.
And so I think the path to income when you're looking at your book from a nonfiction perspective sometimes feels a little more clear than it is with fiction. I don't know. It's just me.
Sure. I think there are so many opportunities to predict your income from a book. So I think first let's clarify what book income is. So what's your first logical question about that?
Well, I think the general assumption when someone writes a book is that they're going to sell the book, and the book's sales are going to generate some level of income for their business. And there's
Right.
a big question mark about what that expectation should be. And they talk to some people and they hear, "Oh, you're never going to make your money back on a book." And then they talk to other people and they're like, "I know someone that makes 6 figures a month selling books." And
Right.
it's hard to rationalize the expectation sometimes.
It's hard to figure out who to take advice from.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
I personally take advice from people who are nerds for what they do and have lots of experience.
Hmm.
Those are my 2 criteria. So I'm always just interested in
Hey, are you a nerd?
yeah,
B, have you
like
done this?
my accounting team, they are so excited because we have a new vehicle that's over 6,000 pounds. They are like, "You get to take the major deduction." And I'm like, "What? That is wonderful." But they got all excited about it. I'm like, "I'm excited too. I like the word deduction." But they're super nerds about tax code.
Hmm.
I just want someone, if I'm going to take their advice, someone who's going to work with me or for me, I want them to do the same level of work on something that I would do if I were in their chair.
Hmm.
Right. So, um, when it comes to estimating book income, the first thing that I want to make sure that we say is that it depends. I'm going to give you the lawyer answer, and it depends on a lot of factors. And I'll run down what some of those factors are. One, what's the job of the book? Is the job of the book to be sold in exchange for money, or is the job of the book to be used to generate new business? So that's the first X factor. The second X factor is how clear is the professional on what they want from the book, and is what they want from the book very apparent in the book? Right? So if you want your
Right.
book to boost your brand, help you to get more business, establish you as the go-to expert, does the book do that job?
So are you referring specifically to the message and the content of the book, or is
Yeah.
that more about like the marketing of the book? Right. It's like the
Well, I
book
think,
itself, right?
initially the message,
Right.
but ultimately the next place I was gonna go, and I think you just picked up on it, is does the author have a clear marketing plan that is, in alignment with the 4 criteria I talk about in You Must Market Your Book, which is your personality. Are you an introvert, an extrovert, or an ambivert? What is the job of the book? Right? Are you clear on the job of the book? Do you have a budget? Although we all know I hate that word. That's the German word for torture. Right? And do you have an amount of time that you are able to carve out to do your book marketing?
Hmm.
So if you don't have the answers to those 4 questions, then you're just constantly looking for the answer. How do I market my book? How do I market my book? And if I say to you, the way you market a book is to buy a billboard, one of those electronic billboards you see on the freeway, and it's going to cost you $25,000 a month, you're going to say, but Honore, people don't look at a billboard to buy a book. I don't have $25,000 a month. Well, then you didn't answer the 4 questions. What do you have as a budget? How much time do you have to market your book? And I'm going to just distill it down one more layer. And that is to say, you want to find the 3 things that you can do consistently forever and ever to market your book and your business, and do those 3 things and forget everything else. You're not going to have the time to do more things. And you're going to find that pretty much 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts. And I'm going to call 20% of your efforts those 3 things. So I'm going to make that really easy.
Hmm.
That's pretty much a micro masterclass in book marketing right there. So when I think about estimating my future book income, I have to know what the job of the book is, what I want from the book, and make sure that that's included in the book. And then I have a line of sight to, okay, so if I give 10 keynote speeches a year at $10,000 a speech, I'm going to expect to earn $100,000. Now, that's what I'm going to earn with no book. If I know I can raise my fee by 25 to 50%, and I'm going to use round numbers, everyone, because hi, I'm a writer, not a mathematician. If you want the math stuff, go to Lucas. Lucas is your guy.
Please don't come to me for math.
Okay. Right. Okay.
I mean, I can do the math, but I don't want to do the math.
Yeah. Yeah. If I am a keynote speaker and I know that I can use my book to generate 10 new speaking engagements and I've raised my fee by 50%, I'm now charging $15,000 and I get 10 new speeches. My estimated new income as a result of my book is $150,000. Does everybody see what I did there? So now my estimated speaking income went from 100,000 to 250,000. And that is a, I don't know, percentage in an increase. 200, 150% increase. I don't know.
A lot.
It's a lot. You've just more than doubled your income as a result of your book. You then have to figure out, how do you generate those 10 new presentations? Right. And also, if you were going to give 10 speeches, I did the math wrong. If you were going to give 10 speeches at 10,000, but now you can charge 50% more because you're an author, your original 10 speeches are now 15,000. So you've made 150,000, and then you've made a new 150,000 because you've doubled the number of speeches.
Right.
So the same math works if you're a consultant, if you're a coach, et cetera, et cetera. You can increase the amount that you're charging for something because you're an author. And then you can more than likely, if your marketing plan is done well and you execute on your marketing plan, there's a lot of X factors. I've done some really great marketing plans for people. And when I check in with them to ask them how the marketing plan is going, they're like, oh, I haven't looked at that in a while. You're right. I need to get back to doing that. I need to circle back to that. So you have to be really clear on what you want from the book. You have to be really clear on the job of the book, and you have to make sure that that is baked in. And on a book that I'm working on right now, one of the ways that I read the book and that I read every book is to make sure that every step along the way, the reader is being taken on a journey. Part of that journey is their own transformation. I want you to be able to do something better or differently than you did before you opened the book. I want you to avoid pain and gain pleasure from reading the book. I also am not a fan of books where they're beating you over the head with, well, I have this thing I can sell you.
Oh my gosh.
All the time.
Yeah. Which
is different from, I have a bonus for you outside of this book that's free. You can go and claim your bonuses. That's different. But I'm putting in 30% of what you need to know. The other 70% is behind a paywall of some kind, right? That's not fair. That's not cool. You want to give your readers as much as you can. But what I recognized in reading this book is that the contents of the book were not abundantly clear, that the reader had the option to engage and help if they wanted it.
Right.
We're going to give you everything we can in the format of a book, but there is help. If you want help, if you're more of a done for you person than a done with you person or a done by you person, I guess that's a DIY, right? So there's DIY, there's DWY, and there's DFY. Do it yourself, do it with you, do it for you.
Right.
So if someone is more of a honorary, here's my American Express card, you do it, which is a lot of my clients. Right. Then those lines are really necessary in your book. In other words, if you want to monetize your book with a course, but you don't want to actually do anything other than create the videos, I've got a guy.
A
Right?
guy.
You're the guy.
That's right.
So all of that has to be clear in the very beginning and in the contents of the book so that the reader knows, oh, I don't have to do this by myself. I don't have
Right.
to figure this all out. I don't have to reread these 6 pages again and again and again to get what it is that I'm supposed to do. There's help. There's additional help that's available.
Right.
All right. So estimating how much your book can make, the next step in this is to identify how you want to make your money, how fast you want to make your money,
Yeah.
how easily you want to make your money, how lucrative you want the income stream to be. And of course, there are book royalties, but I have now had, I want to say 5 clients that I have done books for that they have never or will never sell a book.
You mean like they're not selling the book you produced together? Or?
Correct. Correct. It's not available anywhere
Ah,
except if they give you a copy.
so
Because
they're basically using it like part of their other offers in their business.
yep, I've done 2 legacy books where the authors wanted to pass on their wealth of knowledge along with the wealth
Mhm.
that they Ion Energy is Renee, Justin.
Hey, Renee. Hey, Jen.
So
Hey, Karen.
Renee is here. Renee is here. Renee and Justin and Karen and Jen, the gang. You know, we're
Oh,
missing Tony and we're missing Wayne. So hope if they watch later, we want them to know we miss them. So I'm sure there's a question in there, Lucas, because I obviously lost my train of thought. So let me take some more magic juice.
well, I was going to say when you use that book as a product in your existing business, but you're not selling the book, like the book's not for sale.
Right.
It's value add to your current offer, or it's an integral part of a thing like coaching, for example. Sometimes the book that you're producing, whether it be a workbook or a
Yes.
traditionally formatted book, you're using that as a key asset in that coaching program, for example.
Yep.
That, like you were saying, that could be the extent of it. I do that with courses sometimes. I've actually had a conversation with a client last week who's a therapist and a coach. He's doing a challenge type deal. And I said, you can either sell this or you can sell the challenge and make this a part of the challenge. And it's never a course for sale kind of thing.
Right.
Love it.
I have one of those. I have a book that I produced as a companion. And this is just another idea for someone for how they can monetize, how they can think about monetizing their book. They can do a book that is a companion solely for their clients. Didn't turn out that way, however, because when I was writing it in the book, I'm talking about is vision to reality. How short-term massive action equals long-term success. I think I forgot a word in the subtitle. Nevertheless, when I was writing that book, I wrote it because I had in my coaching business created a 100-day coaching program, which was really popular. My clients loved it because it wasn't a year, which is too long. It wasn't 30 days, which is too fast. It was 100 days. It was just right. So my porridge was just right. And then my clients started asking me questions, and I felt a little like Mr. Miyagi because, he was just like, wax on and wax off. I'll talk to you about it later. My clients were spending a lot of money and then asking me, well, can you talk to me about the psychology behind why I'm doing it this way, or why you're doing it that way, or why is this effective, which is just a sign of really smart clients. But I felt like their time would be better spent with us working on them than me explaining the why behind the what. And so I wrote Vision to Reality originally solely as a companion guide for my clients. Like, look, you can take a couple of hours and read this and understand the whole process. And I was writing it, and my mastermind group at the time that I was a part of, it's like, what are you writing? We want to read it. And then they said, you have to publish this. This is actually really valuable information, and it might it might turn out to be lead gen, which is so interesting because I wasn't all books all the time back then. I was mostly something else and a little bit of books. And so it was one of the first aha moments I had around using a book for lead generation and how powerful a book could be for specifically for lead generation, not just having a box checked next to your name, which is, oh, this person is an author. I need to listen to them. They're the authority. When crafting a book that is very specifically done for the purpose of lead generation. Now, you can't be a jerk about it, kids. You can't not give away everything you can give in the contents of a book. It's not just lead gen. It's not just about you. It's a lot about the reader.
Right.
Right. So anyway, yeah.
Absolutely.
I digressed the digression. Pretty good, right?
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Takes a special skill to do that, just so you know. It's not easy.
But you're good at it. So why not do it more? You know?
All right, I'll see how else I can apply that in this conversation.
I'm saying all this knowing that, it's going to come back to bite me. It just is.
I'll never bite you, Lucas.
Well, you won't. That's for sure. I'm too shifty for that.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know, and Byron would take your side, just to be fair.
Well, he would take my side after he held me down so that you could accomplish your mission. And then he'd be like, all right, man, get up. Let me make you a drink. Yeah. You understand, don't you? I mean, I got
she's going to go to bed, right? So we can go sit by the fire. Yeah. Okay. I see how it is.
Yeah. Me in the land of giants. Just little old Luke running around trying to survive.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about the book's message and content, like all these little alarms were going off in my head, because I think some fiction writers don't think that applies to fiction. It's art. They're like, and Zach Bohannon, who we've mentioned several times on here, one of the things he taught me about story when I first started writing, with him coaching me through that, was, a theme in your book having great genre fit. Like if you're not relevant and fitting the genre properly, like you're diminishing the potential of your book's ability to reach as many people, resonate with the right readers in the right way. And so I feel like there's like a fiction equivalency to that. So like in the nonfiction world, making sure that book is designed to do exactly what you need it to do and what the reader needs it to do to make it successful for both of you. Right. They need to be thrilled with the book that they've read, and you need to be thrilled with the results of the book that they read. Right. That it's done its job for your business. And in fiction, I feel like sometimes we may not see it that way, or may not see it that clearly, because people get caught up in the art of it. We're telling a story. There are rules, but there's no rules. And it's like, well, then you need to temper maybe your expectations about the potential reach of the book. And so I've actually had conversations with people on my fiction podcast where they've talked about writing a book to fit a very specific application and genre, and they still have fun with it. They still tell a great story. They love what they're doing, and it resonates very clearly with a very specific genre and a reader. And this people can't get enough. They just want more and more and more. In fact, the writers can't produce enough of that.
What's the name of that podcast?
The Suspense is Killing Me, which actually has a lot of craft in it. We talk a lot about craft and not just the stories. It's funny because I feel like that as long as you're being intentional about how you build your fiction, you can kind of set your expectations. Now, expectations can always be over or under met, right? Like we can build something with all the potential in the world and it doesn't go as far as it could, or it can exceed where we thought it could go based on the reception that readers have. but it's really hard to sell a bad book. And I think that that is kind of like at the
It's hard
root.
to sell a great book.
It is hard to sell a great book. It's like there's,
For the
you know,
record.
yeah, I mean, if you're writing fiction or nonfiction, I feel like the stance you have to take is that you give this book the greatest potential to succeed you possibly can as the writer. And you can only control so much of what readers are going to do and how they're going to respond to your book, but you have to give it a chance to live. You have to give your effort into the quality. You have to, and when you start talking about estimating what your book's potential income could be, the more you cut corners and the more you pull away from the things that shore up the potential of the book, the less likely you are to potentially reach the income potential of the book.
That's right. And it's interesting that you're bringing up the expectation of the reader. Nonfiction readers have an expectation.
Absolutely.
They are buying the book because they respect the author and they want to know what the author has to say on the topic. They are buying the book, and I've already said it, to avoid pain and gain pleasure, sometimes not in that order. They want a recipe, a roadmap. They don't want to have to go back to your beginnings as the author and figure it all out. They're reading your book because in a couple of hours, they can have a line of sight to your education, your experience, your knowledge, all of those things. In fiction, you have to meet the expectations of the reader, because I'm reading a thriller because I want a nerve-wracking read that's interesting and where I learn things and where I like the characters and where the dialogue is great and the setting is fantastic and the writing is well done. You can kill people in a thriller, but if you're reading, a cozy mystery, the body is already dead. If you're reading a romance, then you don't get them together at the end only to kill one of them, right? That's going to really upset the readers. But if you're Lucas, you might. And that's horror. That's not romance.
This is where a good editor comes in. Stop killing the characters.
Stop killing the characters. Yeah. So anyway, it just, you want to estimate the amount of money that your book makes. You've got to do some research into what the expectation of the reader is going to be and meet that expectation. Meet it with your title, meet it with your subtitle, meet it with your content, meet it with your stories.
Right.
Meet it with your authenticity.
And none of this is being said under the assumption that the only reason you're writing a book is to make a full income off of a book, right? Like it's these books, like you said, have a particular job, and whether it's fiction or not, and it's more than just making money. But, I don't know too many authors that do make good money with their books that are complaining about that outcome. It's a good thing to have the book work.
Sure.
Right.
Yes. Well, regardless of whether your goal is to be a full-time author, someone who writes books and makes money from your income, fiction or nonfiction, or you are a professional who is making the case for investing time, money, and other resources into producing a book, most likely you want more money. Or as one of my friends, mentors, coaches says, I've never met anybody who didn't want more money.
Right.
I don't think there's anyone who's going, I have enough money. No. Don't give me any more. Send it to my neighbor.
Or I've known some people that say I have enough, but I'm willing, I'm not
willing to receive more.
I'm not turning away more because I can help more people with it. It's like,
right.
I think there's this misconception, especially in the fiction world, that the struggling artist is the happy artist, but but like when someone reaches a certain level of success that it's maybe not as positive an outcome as it should be. And I always kind of cringe at that because there's so much you can do to help other people when you have those means. And so I'd be happy to help more people,
That's right. That's right. I'm blessed to be a blessing.
Absolutely.
The worst thing in the world is to know that someone needs something and not be able to give it to them.
Right. Yeah, it's a helpless feeling.
It's a helpless feeling. So back to monetizing your book, to estimating how much money you can make from your book.
Mm-hmm.
There is no real answer, but and you can definitely increase the likelihood of your book making an income if
Right.
you expect it to.
Yes. Well, there's some mindset to that. I'm tuned into how you do this because Honore mentors me on these things. But there's times when it's like, hey, if your head's in the right space while you're doing this work, you're
Mhm.
increasing the opportunity for the work to succeed, right? Which it makes perfect sense, but we sometimes fight ourselves on this without even knowing it, right? So,
People are arguing for their limitations in epic
right,
amounts. It's astounding to me how many conversations I have where people will legitimately argue their limitations with me or what their perceived limitations are.
right,
And my challenge back to them, sometimes just in my head, sometimes I'm not, sometimes it's better just to hang out at zipit.com, right? But my challenge is always when you say you can't do something, and I got this from Tony Robbins 100 years ago, right? When he says, if you say, I can't, if you're ever in a seminar of his and you go, I can't do that, he'll go, okay, well, now if you can't, you must.
hmm,
So it's like, can you really not do that? Or you just don't feel like doing that? Or you don't feel like figuring out how to do that? Are you really absolutely incapable of doing that? Or are any of the following and perhaps factoring in? You're lazy. Your self-talk is poor. Your
or you're not.
confidence needs some work.
Yeah, you're not looking at all of your options.
You're not right. You haven't uncovered. I love it. And I do this too. So I'm like, when I have this, I got 3 pointing back at me. I've tried everything. No, you haven't. You've tried 3 things or 12 things, but you have not tried everything. Because if you had tried everything, you would have found some way that it would have worked somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is actually I mean it's not just actions like
Right.
our activities that we can put in that box or categorize
Right.
that way or treat
Right.
that way. It's
Right.
also asset related things like how you presented your book and what format you delivered in and what kind of markets you
Right.
access and all those
Right.
things. I mean, there's I've talked to a few uh authors who are like, yeah, I just can't get my books to move. Like I can't sell them. And I'm like, well, what
Yeah.
formats are you selling them in? And where are you talking about them? And have you, leveraged all these different ways you can do it? And sometimes the opportunities that we discuss are new to them. They're like, oh, wow, that might actually work. And then other
Yeah.
times they're just like, well, that's not, I haven't tried that because I can't do that. And to your point, the next question is, well, why can't you? You
Well,
know,
or what could you do?
right.
You
Yeah.
can't walk 10,000 steps a day if you have no legs.
Right.
But
Right.
as I was almost on my walking pad this morning and I was like, "Well, I can't do that. That's not a I could do it. I could be walking on it right now, but it's not practical based on the rest of my day. I can't get schwitzy and then go to a lunch meeting. So the practical side, the
With
practical
the
side of me came out.
with the check and explicit box. Was that cussing? Is that what that was?
No, no, you know what schwitzing
I'm
is?
just, I'm just kidding.
I did not
Uh,
swear. I did not swear on the live broadcast.
uh,
I am not without sin, but I did not swear right now. Um, so and you made me lose my train of thought, Lucas. It's
well,
your
it's not
fault. Oh,
practical for you to do that, right?
right, it's not practical. So if I say I'm not able to do that, as opposed to I can't do that, I'm not able to do that, I'm not able to do that right now, what could I do? So I was gonna say,
Mhm.
as we all know, sitting is the new smoking, right? And movement is
Right.
medicine. I have all these little phrasey, turny phrasey things now. And so if you're not able to do something, what are you able to do? And sometimes it's not. when I first started running again, I wasn't running. It was like I was more like walking most of the time and running a little bit to build up conditioning and all the things. Sometimes it's not going from 0 to 60. Sometimes it's going from 0 to 0.5 to 1 to 1.5. Anyway, asking yourself what you can do. And so when we're talking about, I want to make sure that we stay on topic and we keep circling back to it. I think that's important. But when you're thinking about estimating the amount of money your book can make, my first path is always to go see what the really successful people are doing and try to reverse engineer what they're doing. I'm going to give a shout out to two of my favorite fiction authors who also have rabid followings. One of them is Stephanie Bond, and she has a cool series right now. We'll link to it, but I want to tell you what it's called for those of you who want to consult the Google right away. So on stephaniebond.com, she is writing a series that is her story of writing fiction, and it's the stories behind the stories. A reader's guide to how I got into writing and all the books I've written so far. So welcome, pull up a chair. And she's done 6 installments, and they're long. They're really good. It's like, this is what I was doing. And then I wanted to write fiction, and I started doing all this stuff. Super fantastic. And also Stephanie is a prolific writer. She started in traditional publishing. She is now indie published. So she has this whole series. So then I've talked about Tanya Kappes before. And for those of you who don't know how it's spelled, it's Kappes. And Tanya writes and publishes 1 fiction book per month. She actually writes more than 1 fiction book per month. She writes about 4,000 to 5,000 words a day. I heard her on a podcast, and then I was like, who is this woman? And I started reading her books. She writes Southern cozy fiction. She knows exactly what her job is, and that's to entertain people and take them away from their cares and their worries. She's hilarious. Her books are hilarious. They're really great reads. And I just started listening to everything that I could that she had done. People tell you a lot when they're on a podcast.
Right.
I just started listening to the fact that she has a Patreon account and the fact that she reads the first chapters of her books live on YouTube, just the first chapter. And as part of her Patreon, for her Patreon subscribers, she does these lives, but then she provides advanced copies of her books, and she sends out birthday cards. And there are probably 100 other things that I could list, not 100 that she does, but maybe 10 other things that she does that are solely focused on connecting her books with readers and giving her readers a great experience. She writes in her Shamper, which is her she camper.
Is that where she writes?
That's where she writes. She lives on some land in Kentucky.
She puts those on her book covers.
She does.
Yeah. She kind of keeps her genre close, or her books close to her experience.
Everything she does is 100% on brand, and her focus is 100% on brand. And whenever she gets tempted to do something off brand, she goes, nope, I'm not going to do that. And she reels it back in. She's like, I have one job.
There's a big lesson in that, though.
Huge lesson.
I mean, because it is very, some people get burned out on doing that, right? Like, and they reach a certain amount of success, and they're like, if I have to write one more story in this particular genre or subgenre, like I'm gonna jump out of a window or something, and like they start to want something different. It's funny because you hear people associate that with high output serial writers, and they seem to like neglect mentioning that for standalone long fiction writers. And those people have the same concern because they might spend a year writing an extensive novel, and they're going to turn around and do it again next year. It's a full concept.
I'm going to go full tough love on the people that go, if I have to write another book in this genre again, I'm going to jump out a window. I'm going to say, you can get a job.
Yep.
You can go back to what you were doing before you had the luxury and the privilege of being a full-time writer.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did she just go there? Yes, she did.
And you can also, you can also pivot and reap
Right. You can also expand
path
your horizons and
and
hack your system and write more,
right.
better, faster because you've become more skilled and you can throw your hat into the ring of another genre.
But and I think be comfortable, like, again, be intentional and be comfortable with the risk you take when you do that, but be committed. Like, if that's really where you want to be and what you
Right.
want to do, go
Right.
do it, but don't expect the same result right away that you had before, you know.
Well, yeah, it's just it would be like my attorney who I hope never says this. If I have to write one more contract, right?
Right,
Or
yeah,
my accountant, if I have to do one more tax return, if I have to create one more estimated tax coupon, right?
right.
You
I have
just
to do
kind of
one more
go,
brain surgery. Yeah.
yeah. So then it's what could you do?
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. Okay, well, what could you do?
Right,
What are all the things that you could do to get yourself in the chair again?
right,
And also, are you making the most of all of the books that you've already written and published? And also, if you're at book 0, like I am with fiction, I'm not thinking about, am I going to hate this 50 books in?
no,
Right? I'm thinking about how I'm going to get that first draft out
right,
of my head and on the page. How am
right,
I going to make it interesting for myself? How am I going to make it interesting for the reader? How am I going to uh, have them go, that was really cool. That was a really interesting twist, or I did not see that coming. All of those fun things.
right,
And it's a little game you can play with yourself so that you keep it interesting for yourself and you keep it interesting for your readers. So I don't know that we answered the question because we didn't. We said it depends on how you estimate the income from your book.
well,
But
I think you said something very uh very important to help answer that question. And that's by looking, you get your potential for these things from watching what other people have proven to be the case.
correct.
So,
Yes.
you know, if you like you mentioned Tanya Kappas and Stephanie Bond,
Yeah.
when you introduced me to what they're doing and how they're doing it, I was blown away. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful way for people in those genres to present their work to a very dedicated group of readers because they have built a
Yes.
community around their work.
Yes. Yes.
And they're very involved and they're very communicative with those people. And it's different than being in a situation where you want to work in a different environment where you put out a book and you don't have community and you don't have membership and you don't have the Patreon and like all that stuff. It's like a different lifestyle. And you could look at the Tanya Kappas and the Stephanie Bonds, and I'll even throw David Viergut's in there, who's a horror writer who I was talking to at.
Why do you keep speaking in foreign languages today? First we have Lacians. Now you say like I want to go bless you.
Well, David is a writer in Texas who has found great success with his subscription. And it was funny because we were talking. I mean, he's got a very extensive backlog. Very
Mm,
extensive backlog. And
mhm.
every time I look at that, I go, well, there's no, you can't sell a book you didn't write. So
Right.
you
That's
gotta get
right.
the books
That's
written.
right.
All these people kind of have common elements. They've dedicated themselves to the craft. They've written the book. They've focused on readers. They've really gone out of their way to connect with people. And when I was talking, with David about how things were going, uh, he was like, how's your fiction coming along? And I said, it's coming great. I said, I'm trying to keep my eye on the prize with really connecting with my readers. And he said, man, that is so smart of you.
Mhm.
I'm not saying this to say I said something smart, but he said, because a lot of the people that are talking about doing subscriptions think that it's about setting up a subscription service. And really that's
Really?
that's like a that's like an end product of establishing relationships with readers first and getting them engaged with you and getting them on your email list and having repeat
Right.
conversations and sales. And building up a fan base that they're the ones who are interested in the subscription. It's not like you build a subscription and then people just fall out of the sky into it. You can't bypass that connection with the readers and doing all that work. And so when you think about estimating your income for your book or your series or your portfolio of books, you again build the model you want to exist in, the lifestyle you want to exist in, the way you want to connect with your readers. And that gives you and then look at the ones who have done that. And that gives you the ability to kind of start putting some numbers and potential together, which, by the way, in every risk analysis course I've ever taken, and risk isn't just negative. There's positive risk, which are outcomes or opportunities. It's always the probability times the impact.
Right.
So if you have this probability of succeeding with this number figure as a financial measure, and you put those, you multiply those, you come up with the value of that potential. And I could look at someone like a Tanya Kappas or a Stephanie Bond, or even someone like astronomical like Stephen King, and put those potentials and numbers together. And then I could look at people closer to home, and you start to get a window and a range. But when you look at the people that are doing exactly what you aspire to do and in the way you want to do it, and you can find more and more examples of those people, you get a better idea of how much you can potentially do with those books or with those series. It's very powerful.
Yes. Go looking for people who are succeeding in an area that you want to succeed. And then recognize that they had a whole lot of time in the trenches before you ever heard about them.
Right.
And we all started with no readers.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I published my first book and went, okay, here we go. I'm going to do what Mark Victor Hansen said, because he's the successful author and I am the brand new author with no readers. Let's try doing that. And I like to just reverse engineer. And the great thing is now we live in an age where authors are not unicorns that you can't find anything out about. A lot of these folks, Lucas, a lot of the most successful folks are people you would never hear from. They are just very quietly typing away or producing away, and they are not seeking fame.
Right.
They are seeking a lifestyle. They're seeking freedom, which means they have freedom, fortune, and fame. Fame is a distant third. Right? So you're not going to hear about them. But if you do listen to, in our case, right, as writers, I'm listening to writer podcasts and I'm listening to authors and I'm listening to what they're saying and what their common themes are and what their activities are, they will almost always say, I get up and I write the words. Right. I go for a walk when I get stuck. I drink coffee. Right? Very few of them say, I sit on my couch and watch Netflix and hope that 500 words appear on my screen by the end of the day. So everyone starts in the same place. Everyone has the same opportunity. And if you're willing to put in the work and figure out how you can make it work for you, then you're destined to be successful. The only thing standing in your way is you.
Right.
So do we have any questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, come on, guys. Ask us any questions you want. Fiction, nonfiction.
Yeah.
Clarification, something we haven't even discussed if you want.
I'm going to clarify that if you read off genre of what you normally read, then Amazon will recommend to you more of that genre. That's clarification. Yes.
That is a measurable thing. You can actually see that in your life right now, can't you?
I can. Yes. Hold on. Let me open my Kindle. What is it recommending? What is it recommending when I open it right now? Well, it obviously doesn't know anything about me because it's recommending cookbooks.
Oh, cookbooks.
Yeah. So that's not me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? I opened it up and it just said, great on Kindle.
Those are almost all paid too. Someone's paying for that.
Well, here's what's interesting. Here's another page of it. And it says, learn from business and investing reads on great on Kindle. So right now they're promoting their Great on Kindle program. I don't know if you've been nominated for that. I have a couple of books that have been nominated for Amazon where they will do Great on Kindle.
What does that mean? What is that? I asking a loaded question?
Well, no, I'm trying to figure out how to answer it. I haven't. So they have a. Okay, let me back up. Amazon has a lot of initiatives that they use to sell more books.
Right.
And so they have lots of programs. And so they'll nominate you for a Kindle deal. If your book is in Kindle Unlimited, they'll say, well, we want to put your book, Business Dating, in the Kindle, some kind of Kindle promotion. And then you have to leave it there. You have to commit, and then they'll write you back. So Great on Kindle is another program that they have. And every so often they'll write to me about one of my books, and they'll say, would you like this book to be on Great on Kindle? It's for 90 days. So they say, if you agree to that, then we'll change the price of your book. We'll promote it. And so I guess here on this is the first time I've ever seen that, is a whole little montage.
That's cool.
Of books that are in the Great on Kindle program. You can also go to Amazon and type in Great on Kindle and see the books that they recommend. Justin is asking, how long does it take you both to write a book, fiction or nonfiction? You go first.
That one's fun. Let me try to avoid the it depends, although it is a kind of a multivariate answer. Okay, so I try personally to produce 2,000 words a writing day. So if I'm writing that day, that's my goal. Why 2,000? That's roughly the word count of one of my chapters in my fiction. So I'm more of like a chapter a day kind of guy in my head. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But when I'm on a roll and I'm like cranking, that's what's happening. So that is for the fiction side. For the nonfiction, it's a little harder for me personally, because it's usually very detailed. So when I'm writing nonfiction, it's a little bit more detailed stuff. I do a brain dump first. I just get it out. So I'm not even paying attention to word count at that point. I'm just getting the information out of my head, and then I groom it and clean it. So I would say I need 3 months to 4 months to write and produce a book on average, but up to 6 months. So how about you, Andre?
For nonfiction?
Yeah, for nonfiction, I prefer to take 6 months because of the detail and the way we have been taught to produce a nonfiction book, which is very detailed, quality high. It takes more time and effort. So it's not about the writing, it's about the whole project. So might get it written in 3 months, but it's going to take 6 months on average to kind of put that book out.
Right. So the writing the book, Justin, that's a great question. How long does it take let me start with fiction. How long does it take me to write fiction? Apparently forever.
Will you stop?
Forever. It'll come someday.
No.
No, I have a goal for right now for my fiction. So, and we'll talk about it next week because it's in the new book. I talk about it in the new book. As far as nonfiction is concerned, writing the book and producing the book are two, I'm going to say, I feel like I just did an episode of Law and Order. They're two separate but equal, parts, and the tracks run concurrently. Producing a book can go very fast. Writing a book can go very fast when you know what you're doing. As far as writing goes, the fastest I've written a book now is 1 day. A very short, multi-thousand word book, 5,000 words. I can write that in a day if I'm uninterrupted, which doesn't happen very often. Generally speaking, my books range on the short end 15,000, on the long end 60,000, with a word count goal of about 1,000 per session when I sit down. So it's about 1,000 words an hour. 2 Pomodoros, 2 25-minute writing sessions, and so if I have a 15,000 word book, that's 15 1-hour sessions, give or take, in front of the computer, knowing that that's just the beginning, because the first rough draft and what ends up coming out in book form are barely resemblant of one another. Right. And so if it's 15 days or it's 30 days or it's 35 days or it's 60 days, and those are Monday through Friday with an occasional Saturday thrown in for good measure. But I generally have too much other stuff going on to write any other time of the day, except when I'm at the end of a book and I'll wrap with this, or I've lied to my editor and told her that the book will be done on time. knowing full well I'm like, yes, the book is totally on track, Karen, I'll get it right done. And then
Karen, it's on its way.
Yeah, it's in your inbox. Hello, did you even look before you emailed me? No, and so I have done that. I have done that one time where I had to get very, very intentional and purposeful on getting it done. So I always suggest that someone take that number and divide by 4, because an email is about 125 words. So if you can write 2 emails a day, you can write 250 words a day, and that's how long it's going to take you to write your book. So take 30,000 words, divide it by 250. I have no idea what that is. What is that? So 120 days?
You said 30,000 words?
30,000 words divided by 250. How many days is that?
Oh, I could have told you that was going to be 120 because you have to multiply it by 4. But yeah, it's 120.
Yeah. So in 120 mornings, however many days that actually takes you, if you write over 5 days a week or 6 days a week or 3 days a week, that's how long it's going to take you. But 120 times at the computer for 250 words, even bad words, you can get the help of a great team and turn that rough draft manuscript into something fabulous. We are over time, Lucas. So much fun.
If you do that, by the way, it's 24 weeks if you're writing 5 days a week.
Which is 6 months.
Yep, doing that.
Yeah,
so
which is 6 months. That's fantastic.
Yep. And I don't know about you, Honore, but it probably takes me just as long to edit and publish as it takes for me to write. So whatever my writing time is, you might as well just multiply that by 2 for the project time.
Yeah, I was going to say, give yourself a year to write and publish your first book.
Mm-hmm.
And then add in a little extra time. If you get it done sooner, great. If you don't, that's okay too. At least you'll get it done.
Thank you, Justin. We appreciate that.
Justin. Check's in the mail, buddy.
We hope everyone had a good time with this very important episode. I mean, we were, this is a big one. This one kind of hits home for a lot of people because it has to do with their confidence and their willingness to jump in and commit and all the things. And we just want you to know that, if you don't feel like there's a super clear answer, that's normal. Like, it's okay to feel that way. You have a lot of potential. Just get the thing built properly and give it a chance to live.
Don't overthink it. Just ink it.
That's right. Do it right. Don't cut all the corners.
That's right.
Okay. So Honore, for next week.
Yes.
We are going to be talking specifically.
Yes.
About your new book.
Yes, we are. We're going to talk about Honore Corder's mini book of goal achievement.
That's right.
What it is, why I wrote it, all the things, right?
Why it's
valuable. And then the goals that I've set that are inside of it, because I'm going to use third-party validation, also known as other people harassing me to get my stuff done, to get it done. And so that's what we're going to talk about next week. And I'm not excited about talking about yet another book that I have written, but peeling back another layer of the onion of what I've discovered in this process.
Right.
To share.
Excellent. With you that you learned particularly publishing this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, see that is
book 65. It's book 65.
That's why I'm like, I'm so happy to hear that, because I feel like it's just everything's so fresh all the time. It's like, it's great.
I learn at least one thing again and one new thing with every book. At least I relearn something because could be a slow learner. And I learn something new with every book. So I'm excited to share what those things are next time.
All right, guys. Well, you know where we'll be. Come see us next Thursday right here. Same channels, same time. If you're following along or you're looking for a soul place to follow along, check out our YouTube channel. And make sure you guys swing by the Empire Builders Masterclass.com.
Yes.
And explore our options for learning more about publishing, marketing, monetizing your books, all the good stuff. So Honoré, thank you so much for presenting the topic today. And this was really fun, and it's a really important topic. And I hope if you guys have any questions after the episode, drop them in the chat on YouTube and we'll get to them. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.